If you've ever felt betrayed, if you've ever walked out of a building carrying your things in a cardboard box while the world kept spinning like nothing happened, then stay with me. Because this story isn't just about revenge. It's about grace. It's about courage. And it's about a single father who risked his life to save the very woman who shattered his career, without knowing who she was. Before we begin, take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Stories like this remind us that even on our worst days, we still get to choose who we are. And that choice can change everything. It was 8:17 on a gray Monday morning in downtown Chicago when Daniel Reyes lost everything. Daniel had always believed in two things: hard work and keeping your word. At 38, he had spent 12 loyal years working as a senior logistics manager at Halbrook Industries, one of the city's most prestigious tech manufacturing firms. He wasn't flashy. He didn't network at rooftop bars or laugh too loudly at executive jokes. He simply worked. Long hours, quiet dedication, overtime without complaint, but none of that mattered when the restructuring email came. He had been called into a glass-walled conference room overlooking the city skyline. The HR director couldn't meet his eyes. "This decision comes directly from the CEO," she said softly. "We're eliminating several mid-management positions." Daniel heard the words but felt only the pressure in his chest. CEO. Decision. Eliminating. He thought of his 7-year-old daughter, Sophia. He thought of rent, health insurance, her asthma medication. "I've given 12 years, he said, his voice steady despite the storm building inside him. "I know," the HR director replied. "I'm sorry." And just like that, it was over. By 8:45 a.m., Daniel stood outside the building holding a cardboard box with his framed photo of Sophia, a chipped coffee mug that read, "World's Best Dad," and the small cactus she'd insisted would protect him at work. The wind cut through his thin jacket. He felt humiliated, disposable. He didn't know that upstairs, in a corner office with floor-to-ceiling windows, CEO Victoria Halbrook had just signed off on a list of names without reading a single one carefully. Victoria was brilliant, driven, and under immense pressure from the board. Investors demanded efficiency. Numbers had to improve. Costs had to shrink. She hadn't meant to ruin anyone's life. But she had. Daniel spent the rest of the morning making phone calls that led nowhere. "We'll keep your resume on file. We're looking for someone with a different background." Budget freeze. By early afternoon, he had exactly $412 in his checking account. He didn't go home right away. He couldn't bear to see Sophia's hopeful face and explain why Daddy wouldn't be going back to work tomorrow. Instead, he walked. Chicago's financial district buzzed around him, heels clicking against pavement, taxis honking, construction drills whining. The world had no idea his had just collapsed. That's when he heard the first scream. It came from inside the Grand Meridian Hotel across the street. Sharp, panicked, people turned, some froze, others pulled out their phones. Then came the second scream, and the unmistakable crack of gunfire. Time slowed. 3 masked men burst through the hotel's revolving doors, shouting. One of them dragged a woman in a navy business suit by the arm. She stumbled, her heels scraping against marble. Daniel didn't think. He saw only this. A terrified woman, a gun pressed against her side, chaos exploding around them. The thieves had attempted a robbery during a private executive luncheon inside the hotel ballroom. It had gone wrong. Security had been alerted. Police sirens wailed, faintly in the distance. "Back up," one of the gunmen shouted, waving his weapon wildly. "We need a car." The woman tried to pull away. "Please," she gasped. Daniel's heart slammed in his chest. He could walk away. He could wait for the police. He could protect himself. But he thought of Sophia. He thought, if that were her one day, if no one stepped in. The gunman yanked the woman toward a black SUV idling at the curb. Daniel moved. He didn't shout. He didn't announce himself. He simply ran. Years of coaching Sophia's soccer team had kept him stronger than he realized. He lunged at the nearest thief, tackling him from the side. The gun clattered across the pavement. Chaos erupted. A second gunman turned, firing. The shot grazed Daniel's shoulder. Pain exploded through him, but adrenaline drowned it out. "Run!" Daniel shouted at the woman. She froze for half a second, then bolted toward the hotel entrance. The third thief swung his weapon toward her retreating figure. Daniel saw it happening in fragments, the lifted arm, the tightening finger, the aim. He threw himself forward again, crashing into the gunman's legs. They hit the ground hard. Sirens grew louder. Bystanders screamed. The first thief scrambled up, but hotel security tackled him. The second tried to flee, only to be intercepted by arriving officers. Within seconds, it was over. Daniel lay on the pavement, blood soaking into his sleeve. The woman he'd saved knelt beside him. Her hands trembled as she pressed her scarf against his wound. "Stay with me," she whispered. Their eyes met, and in that moment, neither of them recognized the other. Daniel's vision blurred. The last thing he heard before everything went dark was her voice cracking as she said, "You saved my life." When Daniel woke up, the hospital room was quiet except for the rhythmic beeping of a heart monitor. His shoulder throbbed, bandaged heavily. A nurse noticed his eyes flutter open and smiled. "You're lucky," she said. "That bullet was close." Memories rushed back in jagged flashes. Gunfire. Screams. The woman. Sophia. He tried to sit up. "My daughter. She's fine," a familiar voice interrupted gently. Daniel turned his head. Standing near the window, hands clasped tightly together, was Victoria Halbrook. He recognized her instantly. He'd seen her photo in company newsletters, watched her speak at annual conferences, admired her from a distance. The CEO, the woman who had fired him, and the woman he had saved. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. "I didn't know it was you," Daniel said finally, his voice hoarse. Victoria's eyes were red, as if she hadn't slept. "I didn't know it was you either," she whispered. "Not until I saw your name in the hospital intake report." Silence stretched between them, heavy with everything unsaid. "You signed the order," Daniel said, not accusing, just stating a fact. She swallowed. "Yes." Another pause. "You risked your life for me," she said. "After I took your job." Daniel looked at the ceiling. "I didn't know who you were. I just saw someone who needed help." Victoria stepped closer to the bed. "That's exactly why I'm here." She told him about the board pressure. The rushed decisions. The spreadsheet of names she had approved without understanding the human stories behind them. It was easier to look at numbers, she admitted. Harder to look at faces. Daniel thought of Sophia's drawing taped to his refrigerator, a stick figure version of him labeled, "My hero." "I don't regret what I did," he said quietly. "My daughter needs to grow up knowing her father stood for something." Victoria's composure broke. Tears slid down her cheeks. "You've reminded me what leadership is supposed to be," she said. The days that followed made headlines. Single father foils armed robbery. Hero employee saves CEO. But the real transformation happened behind closed doors. Victoria reinstated Daniel, publicly apologizing for the oversight. But Daniel surprised her. "I'll come back," he said. "On one condition." "Anything. We create a review process that considers the people behind the positions. No more faceless cuts." Victoria agreed. Over the next year, Halbrook Industries changed. Layoffs required full executive review. Employee assistance programs expanded. Transparency increased. Daniel didn't just return as a logistics manager. He became director of operations and employee advocacy. And Victoria changed too. She walked the factory floors, learned names, listened. One evening, months later, Daniel stood in his kitchen helping Sophia with her homework when the news replayed the robbery footage. "That's you, Daddy," Sophia said proudly. He smiled. But what she didn't see was the quiet truth behind it all. The real heroism wasn't in tackling armed thieves. It was in choosing integrity when bitterness would have been easier. It was in proving that character doesn't depend on circumstance. Daniel could have turned away that day. He could have let anger win. Instead, he chose courage. And in doing so, he didn't just save a CEO. He saved himself from becoming someone he wouldn't recognize. So if you're walking through your own gray Monday, if you feel overlooked, underestimated, or unfairly treated, remember this. Your circumstances don't define your character. Your choices do. And sometimes, the moment that feels like your ending is actually the beginning of something far greater. If this story moved you, like the video and subscribe to the channel. Share it with someone who needs a reminder that integrity still matters, and that even in betrayal, you can choose bravery. Because you never know, the person you help today might be the very one who changes your tomorrow.